There are stories in Harrow Creek that people whisper about so quietly you'd think speaking them aloud would summon something listening beneath the soil. Some of those stories are old, some are still happening. But none haunt the town as deeply as the story of the children. The ones who went missing, the ones who came back, and the ones who shouldn't have returned at all. Tonight, I will tell you what happened in the weeks after the tunnels beneath Harrow Creek echoed with a pulse that wasn't human. What happened when the ground stopped hiding the things it had been feeding for generations? And what happened when the children of Harrow Creek began to wake up different? Because if there is one thing Harrow Creek fears more than its dead, it's its living. 3 days after the collapse on Briar Road, the first child came back. Her name was Marla Brixton, 8 years old, missing for 42 days. Posters curled on telephone poles. Her parents had stopped sleeping. Search parties had turned from hopeful gatherings to grim formalities. And then she walked out of the tree line at dusk. She didn't speak. She didn't cry. She didn't run to her parents. She simply stood at the edge of their yard, shoeless, clothes torn but strangely clean, and watched the house with wide, dark eyes, as if she didn't remember it, as if it wasn't hers anymore. Her mother screamed her name. Her father dropped to his knees. But Marla only tilted her head in a slow, unnatural movement, like she was listening to something behind them. And then, in a voice that didn't belong to a child, she asked, "Is it safe?" But she wasn't talking to her parents. She was talking to the ground. 2 more children followed on the next night. Another 5 the night after that. They came alone, always at twilight, always barefoot, always silent, and always changed. Some stood outside their homes for hours before entering, as if relearning how to be human. Some stared at strangers as though they recognized them from somewhere deep beneath the earth. Some wandered the streets in straight, perfect lines, ignoring cars, ignoring shouting parents, ignoring everything. But the worst part wasn't their silence. It was their shadows. The children walked in the fading red light of dusk, and their shadows didn't match. Some bent the wrong direction, some stretched too long, some twitched, some lagged behind and caught up suddenly, as if trying to follow rules they barely remembered. And Harrow Creek, a town built on secrets, began to feel watched by the very children it had once mourned. The first major incident happened at the only daycare center still operating. 9 children had returned by then, and 5 of them had been brought for evaluation. That was when the workers began noticing something strange. The children did not blink. Not once. Not in 7 hours. Not under bright lights or darkness. Not when spoken to, or startled, or touched. And worse, every single one of them turned their heads at the exact same moment to face the same empty corner of the room, the one with no windows, the one where the wooden floor bowed slightly inward, the one teachers swore sometimes vibrated faintly, like something underneath was breathing. When asked what they were looking at, the children finally blinked, together synchronized, and then one whispered, "He's coming." No one slept in Harrow Creek that night. On the 4th night, something happened that Sheriff Reeves, who had already suffered more than any man should, would later describe only as the longest minute of my life. At exactly 3:13 a.m., every child in town, missing, returned, or never gone, woke up at the same moment, not crying, not screaming, just awake. Parents found them, standing beside the bed, staring at corners, tracing lines on the floor, whispering into vents, tapping patterns on walls, or simply smiling at nothing, and for one full minute, the entire town could hear the same sound: soft footsteps beneath the floorboards, moving from house to house, as if choosing. When the minute ended, the footsteps stopped, but the children didn't go back to sleep. Instead, they said 3 words, together, across the town in the same monotone voice: "We remember now." What I am about to tell you is not known by most of Harrow Creek. It was not released in reports, nor whispered in the diner. It exists only in the lost recordings from the sheriff's office, a file that was deleted, recovered, deleted again, and finally sealed under the name Children Route-8. In the interviews conducted with the returned children, none of them described being underground. None described tunnels, none described darkness, none described captors. Instead, each child drew the same image: a circle of standing stones, a wide field of black grass, a sky with no stars, and something tall, hunched, watching them from a ridge. The children all wrote the same sentence beneath their drawings: "We were being taught." When asked what they were taught, every child gave the exact same answer: how to listen. It happened 1 week after the first child returned. Just after sunset, all 23 returned children walked out of their homes without a word. Parents followed, shouting. Lights turned on across the neighborhood. Cars stopped in the street. But the children never looked back. They formed a line on Willow Road, then another behind it, and another. 3 perfect lines of equal spacing, as if following a design only they could see. Then the ground began to tremble in a slow, rhythmic pulse, and someone whispered, "They're responding." The children stepped forward once, in perfect unison. The streetlights flickered, the air thickened. Shadows on the ground began to lengthen and lift. One child looked at her mother, really looked at her, for the first time since returning, and said softly, "We weren't taken." And then, with a smile too calm for any child to wear, "We were chosen." The episode ends with the camera pulling back from Willow Road as the children lift their heads toward the sky, their eyes reflecting a pale, pulsing light from somewhere in the fields outside Harrow Creek, a light that should not exist, a light that is growing.